Okay, now we move on to Castra sunt in Italia contra populum Romanum in Etruriae faucibus conlocata, crescit in dies singulos, hostium numerus. All right, let's find the verb. Sunt. There is a camp. Now, you've learned in first year Latin that castra in the plural means camp in the singular, although it's in the plural. I'll make a video on that one day, why that is. It's kind of interesting. But for now, we will translate it that way, as counterintuitive as it seems. There is a camp, right? And then all this stuff. In Italia contra populum Romanum in Etruriae faucibus. Now, believe it or not, we're going to make this sentence extremely easy by doing this. All of this stuff is adverbial. You're starting to get the hang of this parenthesizing adverbial material. So now what would it say? Castra sunt conlocata. This just means situated or established. We'll call it established. There is a camp established. Conlocata is an adjective qualifying castra, which is the subject of the verb sunt. So castra, a camp. There are castra, so there is a camp. Conlocata, located together, established. That's what it means. In Italia, so we can do it separately if you wish. In Italia, contra populum Romanum, very easy, against the Roman people. In Etruria faucibus conlocata. In literally the jaws of Etruria, but the passes of Etruria. And there's a good little write-up in the commentary about where we're talking about. Crescit in dies singulos hostium numerus. All right. Any ambiguous nominative there? Numerus. Let's use it. Has to be the subject, doesn't it? So without even knowing what the verb is, we know that it has to be a third person singular, don't we? And there it is, crescit. It's almost like magic, isn't it? It's kind of like that magic trick where you have the answer hidden in 3 different places, and if they choose the quote right unquote number, you have a place that says you picked the right number. Featured in a Columbo episode a long time ago. Here, when you have the nominative, you know what the nature of the verb is going to be. Can't get enough of that. In dies singulos. Now, this is idiomatic. Literally means into separate days, right? But in this context, it means day by day. Okay. Numerus hostium. Might as well put that in the nominative to as a genitive that qualifies numerus. That would be a partitive genitive. Number of the enemy, of all of the enemy in the world. It is just this number of them. Okay. Eorum autem castrorum imperatorem ducemque hostium inter Moenia adque ad Deo in senatu videtis intestinam aliquam quotide perniciem republicae molientem. All right. First, let's savor the fact that on first view, this seems a little difficult. And then let's do what we do to it and realize retrospectively that it isn't. Eorum autem. Let's get rid of however. However is just looking backward and saying that what I'm about to say in one way or another is in contrast to what was just said. Eorum castrorum, we have a genitive of what? Imperatorem. Okay, good. Imperatorem is in what case? Accusative. So you expect it to be a direct object given that it isn't preceded by a preposition. And the que here just means et ducem hostium, doesn't it? Remember what the que is. So there's another accusative, ducem hostium, inter Moenia adque ad Deo in senatu videtis. Let's get rid of the adverbial stuff for now. That's why I like to put it in parentheses, to get it out of the way, to not allow the elements of the adverbial stuff to infect, if you will, the rest of the words and make you think that they belong to whatever clauses we're trying to figure out. Okay? So where is our unambiguous nominative, if any? Well, we don't have it, do we? Why? Because the next thing you look for is the verb, videtis. And there is the obvious main verb, and it's second person plural. And so you plural is going to be the elliptical subject. So you see what? Well, you see A, imperatorem, and B, ducem. We'll start with that. You see the imperator, the, if you will, emperor, although he's not literally one, the ruler of this camp, and et ducem hostium, and the leader of the enemy, within the walls, intramoenia. Remember, community, when you share walls, community, communitas, atque adeo insinatu, and further, in the Senate. Now you see A and B. You see the imperatorem, you see the ducem. Imperatorem of this, imperator of this, the ducem of this. And notice a nice chiastic, stylistic arrangement of elements. Castrorum imperatorem, ducem hostium. You have the two accusatives touching each other, because the que takes care of the et that would otherwise have to be there, and you have the genitives on either wing of it, kind of like bookends. That's a chiastic arrangement from the root meaning cross, for obvious reasons. Okay, so you see the imperator and leader and all that other stuff. You see him what? You see him doing something. Okay, so think about it. You could stop right there when it comes to a complete sentence, and you can say you see A and B, and that's the end of the sentence. But here you're going to have an adjective qualify imperatorem and ducem. And if ducem were a different gender, by the way, than imperatorem, most likely the adjective would qualify it rather than the previous one. But they're both the same in this case. And that would be molientem. Okay? From the deponent, molior, meaning contriving. Contriving what? A certain aliquam intestinam perniciem, danger. So now we're going to have our strange looking double underlines that are different than these double underlines to make it clear that they are the direct object of, if you will, direct object of the direct object of the main verb. You see A and B, and A and B is the same thing. A and B is the same person, and this person is doing this thing, molientem, right? He's contriving. And now you're going to have, because molientem is a participle, you're going to have it take part in both verb and adjective. Its verbal idea being the present tense, and its adjectival element being, and its verbal element taking a direct object. And that direct object is going to be intestinam aliquam. So I'll do the double underline, the strange double underline. Of the double underline. Okay. You see A and B molioring, contriving a certain internal, intestines are internal, right? Internal danger every day. Get rid of that. That's adverbial. To the Republic. Contriving danger to or for the Republic. Okay, let's have some fun and get rid of all of the adverbial stuff and see if it's still a complete sentence. Okay, so first we'll read all the way through. There is a camp located in Italy against the Roman people in the jaws or passes of Etruria. So the order we might want to do is more like, we'll keep Contra Populum Romanum for the end. Although Cicero didn't do that, which is interesting, right? So there is a camp located in Italy in the jaws or in the passes of Etruria against the Roman people. For whatever reason, Cicero wanted against the Roman people in the middle of that. So let's see if that works in English. There is a camp in Italy against the Roman people in the passes of Etruria. In English, we would want against the Roman people to be last because it would be the emphatic idea, right? Well, that would, in a literature class, require us to discuss it for a while and say why this order of ideas rather than another, but we're dealing with the syntax rather than the style as much, and so we'll move on. Crescit in die singulo socium. The number of the enemy grows day by day. However, autem, big however here, you see the leader of this camp and you see the imperator of this camp, we'll keep it untranslated, and the leader of the enemy within the walls and further in the Senate, even in the Senate, molientem, contriving every day a certain internal danger for, to, toward, against, whatever you wish, the Republic, with respect to the Republic. All right, let's get rid of the adverbial stuff and see how the magic works. Okay, let's see what we have. We'll even get rid of all this stuff. Castra sunt conlucata, crescit hostium numerus, eorum castrorum imperatorem ducem quae hostium videtis, intestinam aliquam perniciam molientem. See how it works? There is a camp. There are camps located. There are camps established. The number of the host, the number of the enemy grows. You see the imperator of this camp and leader of the enemy contriving a certain internal danger. Okay? Now all that adverbial stuff that we got rid of is there, as the name implies, to qualify the stuff it qualifies. Yeah, all the adverbial stuff there qualifies whatever it does, adding to the meaning, even essentially when it comes to subject matter, but inessentially when it comes to syntax. That's the idea. But inessentially when it comes to syntax. That's the idea. Si te iam Catilina comprehendi, si ter fici Cicero. Let's start with that. We have a C, which tells us it's the protasis of a condition, and that implies there's a verb that goes along with this protasis. What would that be? Cicero. Okay, so we have a perfect future, a future perfect. I will have ordered. So if I will have ordered, now Cicero, coming from the fourth principal part, built from ero, eris, erit, etc. So you have will have ordered. Order, the verb is transitive, so we expect a direct object. And that's why we have the te that we will double underline. If now, get rid of that. If now could be temporal, could be situational, depending on the context. If I will have ordered you, Catiline, I like to put vocatives in triangular brackets. If now I will have ordered you, Catiline, comprehendi, not to be comprehended like a book, but to be apprehended, to be arrested. Okay? Getting across the idea that prefixes quite often stand in for each other, substitute for each other, depending on the context. So why not? Apprehend would be ad prehendo, right? With the D attracted to the beginning of the root by turning into a P, so apprehendi. Comprehendi, on the other hand, rather than ad being the prefix, is com, or is cum, to get across the idea that you're grabbing someone and taking them with you, bringing them into your control. To be apprehended, okay? You to be apprehended. So we will turn this into a double underline as well to get across the fact that te comprehendi, right, is what I will have ordered. You to be arrested. C, Cicero, interfici. What's going on? If you allow it to be, this is going to be difficult, but it's not, simply because he's just not repeating the te, is he? So it really means si te, if you wish, iam Catilina, Cicero, interfici, to be killed. Okay? So if all of this stuff, if I will have ordered you to be A, you to be B. So that's the A and the B, not you and you, but you to be A, you to be B, you to be apprehended, you to be killed. Credo, I believe. Now, this is going to be parenthetical because it doesn't set up indirect statement, does it? Credo te esse bonum would be indirect. I believe you to be good. But here we have a parenthetical. I believe this to be the case is really what's going on. Okay? Erit verendum mihi. Okay, so this is scary if you allow it to be, but it isn't if you remember Carthago delenda est as the example of a passive periphrastic. Look it up in your first year Latin textbook. Okay, I'm not going to go into that right now, but maybe in the future I'll make a video of it. The idea being this is a Carthago delenda est construction. Erit verendum mihi. Although in this case the erit is future, so instead of est verendum mihi, it is to be feared by me. It will be feared by me, and because it's a passive periphrastic expression, passive periphrastic instruction, you're going to turn it into something like it will have to be feared by me. It will have to be feared by me, lest, nay. So remember, since it's a fear clause, we are going to understand the nay as lest rather than not, and the not here as not. Okay, so So it will be necessary for me to fear that, is the ne because of a fear clause. Remember that. The ut turns into a ne when it's a fear clause, and it doesn't negate what's about to be said unless there, and then if there is a known, that is the legitimate negator. So we have a correlative construction that is by far the most difficult part of this sentence if you let it be. Non potius, not rather this, then this. It will be necessary for me to fear not rather this than this. Okay, try to internalize that. That's the construction we have. Once you understand that's the construction we have, then filling in the values will be easy. What? Not rather that all the boni, all the good men in the sense that we referred to earlier, all the men that really matter, the ones with power, according to Cicero. Hoc omnes boni, all boni. What? Where is the verb that goes with omnes boni? Seems to be missing, doesn't it? Well, it is, because what you really have here is a decont, as the commentary makes clear. So let's fill it in for now just to get a sense of how it's working. All right. It will be necessary for me to fear lest not rather that all the good men say hoc factum esse a me serius. Okay, did you hear the order I put that in? That would be the order in English. Okay, not rather that all the good men would say. So we have the ut clause here setting up this subjunctive. Not that all the good men would say hoc that this serius too late by me factum esse quam, so not rather this, quam, then, quis quam, dicat crudelius, too cruelly. In order to understand how this goes together, let's get rid of the adverbial stuff to begin with, except for the potius quam, which sets up the correlative construction. So we need that. Let's first render a ridiculously literal, and in this case, therefore, inaccurate translation. Si te, if you to be apprehended, if to be killed, I will have ordered. Okay, but still pretty clear, right? If I will have ordered you to be arrested, implied, out, or killed, erit verendu mihi, it will be necessary for me to fear, lest, not rather this than this. Do you get me? Okay? So, not rather that all the good men would say this to have been done, then a certain one would say it to have been done. Now, obviously that's weird because we left out the adverbial stuff, so this, more than the previous sentence, makes it clear that the adverbial stuff is absolutely essential to make sense of the sentence, right? The contrast between A and B is dependent upon the adverbial material to distinguish these two choices. But syntactically speaking, you see that we're just fine. Now we'll put that stuff back. If you, now Catiline, to be arrested, if to be killed, I will have ordered. All right. Now that's almost kind of a weird poetry, isn't it? That word order. But here we'll say, if now Catiline, I will have ordered you to be arrested, to be killed, I believe. It'll be necessary for me to fear, not rather that the good men would say that this, hoc, was done by me too late, than, quam, a certain one, quisquam, dicat, would say, hoc, a me, factum, esse, crudelius, too crudely. You see? So what's the idea here? The idea is that if I were to do these things to you right now, I would not be accused by the boni of acting too soon, but rather too crudely, not diplomatically enough. That's why you're still alive listening to what I'm saying in the crowd rather than exiled or killed, is the idea. All right? Verum ego hoc, quod iam pridem factum esse oportuit, certe de causa nondum adducor ut faciam. Oh my gosh, a short sentence. Doesn't that feel good? It's nice to get a short sentence in Cicero every once in a while. Let's look for the verb. The main verb is going to be adducor. And it's going to be qualified by the adverb nondum, no less than if it were simply a known, but in this case, not yet. Okay, so not yet I am adduced or induced. Again, prepositions fluid in their meanings in the form of prefixes attached to verbs that have different derivations in English. I am not yet induced ut. Okay, so obviously this is a complementary consecutive clause initiated by the ut. I am not yet induced to do, or that I do. Okay, so think about it in English. That I do something well, est bonum, is good. That's possible, isn't it? Is good. That I do something well is good. That I do something well is good. To do something well is good. We have a similar situation here. Ut faciam. I am not yet induced to do, or that I do, what? Verum ego. Okay, so the ego, for emphasis, is stated rather than implied. Ego adducor nondum ut faciam, what? Hoc quod iam pridem factum esse oportuit, certe de causa. Okay, so we have a lot of adverbial stuff. Verum, here you want it to mean, this is maybe the most difficult part of the sentence. Right away you're thinking, oh, it means true. What is true? Oh, what neuter gender noun is being qualified with the adjective verus? No, there isn't one. This is an adverb turned into from the adjective verus, and it just means but, supposedly. But I say supposedly because it means but, yeah, but it's stronger. It means but in a more than adversative sense. It means but in the sense of certainty. But, so in truth, right? We have that quite often. Sometimes you'll hear it translated that way as well. So, in truth, I am not yet induced ut faciam, that I do what? Hoc, direct object. Quod, nothing but a relative pronoun, qualifying, agreeing with hoc. Hoc quod iam pridem factum esse oportuit. All that in the same case, syntactically understood. Certe de causa, from a certain cause, because of a certain cause. All right, so let's get rid of the adverbial stuff for a second. Ego hoc quod iam pridem factum esse oportuit, adducor ut faciam. Okay, so remember there's a non dum yet. There's a non dum before adducor, but we'll pretend there isn't. Okay, so I am induced to do, or that I do, this which now for a long time, iam pridem, has been necessary, esse factum, to be done. Done, factum, fourth principal part of facio, esse, to be done. Okay, so hoc factum esse est bonum is possible. This to be done est bonum is good, would be a sentence that makes sense. Why do I say that? For you to understand that when we encounter nouns in any other name, whether it be canis, standing by itself, or something like this, hoc factum esse, it's good to understand what you have, because then its status, its syntactical status in the sentence is clear. All right. So we'll bring the adverbial stuff back. But I am not yet induced to do this which now for a long time it has been necessary to be done. Tum denique interficiere, cum iam nemo tam improbus, tam perditus, tam tui similis inveniri poterit, qui id non iure factum esse fatiatur. All right, this is a little tricky, maybe. We have a tum cum clause, then, when. Okay, so tum, then, finally, denique, you will be killed. Interficieris. Change it to interficiere. He likes to do that. Okay. Then, finally, you will be killed. Cum, when. Okay. When all this stuff goes on. Okay. So that's why tum was isolated. We have a tum ... cum ... construction. Then, when. Then, finally, you will be killed. When, and then all this other stuff that follows. When what? Well, what's the first thing we're going to look for in a cum clause? And by the way, you know it's not cum plus the ablative because you don't have an ablative going with it. All right, that's pretty easy. First, let's get rid of adverbial stuff. Adverbial within adverbial. Iam. All right, just that. Okay, so when. Now, within this cum clause, which is adverbial, right? When something happens is telling you something about the verb that it goes with. Cum iam nemo. Nemo is our unambiguous nominative subject, isn't it? And we always like those because that tells us that we need a third person singular verb. And where would that be? Poterit, right? When now, and since poterit is future, it tells us that jam is not always temporal, is it? It means at that time. Okay, but when now, suspension of disbelief, now meaning the same time as whatever the tense of the main verb is, if you get my drift. So I'll translate it now with that understanding. When no one will be possible to be found, so improbus, so perditus, so similar, so similis tui. No one so abandoned, so lost, so similar to you will be able to be found. Who, so no one, so whatever, so no one, so A, so B, so C will be able to be found. Who, and now the qui, relative pronoun, is going to tell us who these people are that will not be able to be found once you finally are killed. Who might say, might confess, id non iure factum esse. It non iure factum esse is pretty much one big direct object, isn't it? It not by right to be done. Here the fateor is stronger than say, and so we'll go with confess despite it lacking the con prefix that it could also have. So then, finally, you will be killed when now, or when at that time, no one so lacking in morals, improbus, or abandoned, so lost, so similar to you, will be able to be found who might confess it not to be done by right. All right, so by the time you are killed, Catiline, everyone will agree that it was done justly, is the idea, you see?